So what if the lead coefficient isn't 1? Then what do we do? Does it still break down the same? I don't know. But what I am going to do is I'm going to try to go back to what we had learned from before and see if I can guess as to how I might be able to do this. And so I go back to this idea of, okay, before we had nothing in front of the x. If we take a look at an example just really quick to kind of guide us as to perhaps where we should be looking. If we have 2x squared plus 7x plus or minus 8. I happen to know that this one is factorable, but I just wanted to throw it out there as an example. If you notice, I have a 2 in front now. Well, in order to get a 2 out of multiplying, I need a 1 for an x, so I need an x over here. I need x's in order to get my x squared, but I need a 1 over here, and I need a 2 over here. After that, though, what do you do? Because now that's going to screw up everything. Because if you have a number here, you've got to multiply it by 2. If you have a number here, you have to multiply it by 1, then combine them to get to 7. It's a mess. Well, notice that I've got a number now out in front. So I could possibly have numbers not equal to 1 out in front of both. I don't know. So I'm going to use this generic if it were to factor. This is as complicated as it could possibly factor. There's nothing else that we can do. Okay? So, using this, I'm going to multiply this out to see if I can't get a hint as to what I should possibly do in order to get what I need. And so I'm going to gather up my ax. I'm going to multiply that by cx and d. So I get acx squared plus adx. Then I gather up my plus b and I multiply that by cx and d. And that's going to give me plus bcx plus bd. If I combine like terms, I get acx squared plus, and now the number is going to look like ad plus bc, and I have an x plus bd. Okay, now before we took and we factored the last term, and that had to, the factors of that had to add to give us the middle term. But if you look at the structure of the middle term, that structure says there's not enough here. There's only b and d here. I need a and c as well. So the question is, how can we get a and c in with b and d? Well, there's one here. So if I have A, C, and B, D, does that give me all the letters in the center? Well, yeah. So how would I combine them then? I can't just add them because that's not what I have in the center. You're right. It's not. But I can multiply them. So if you multiply your first and last terms, A, B, C, D, now you can factor this into two factors. If you choose them just right, if you choose them just right, then according to our sign, you add these to get the middle term, and you do. Okay, and so when we're dealing with things that are not one up front, first step, always the first step and just generically is descending order. Descending order. Step 2 is always greatest common factor. If you can factor something out, great. Step 3, we're actually going to change step 3 later on. This is going to be, or I'm actually going to insert it now. Special, we'll call them special products. These are the ones that are oddballs or that are easy, and if you recognize them, great. If you don't, that's fine too. 4 is the lead coefficient. 1. If it is, then look at the other videos. the way, this is just an if you take a and c are both 1, then x squared is 1, and that's fine. Then you'll find out that, oh, okay, well, it kind of just breaks down, and this is exactly how to do it. And so that's all there is to it. Because all you'll have is b and d in here, in the center, and then b and d on the outside, so you just factor b and d. That's it. Okay, 5 is lead coefficient not equal to 1. If it is, stay here. You're going to use grouping. The beautiful thing about this is my sign technique still works. I'm still trying to work the kinks out of it. I haven't had a chance to spend a lot of time on it recently. But I'm trying to make it so I can kind of guess these. And I have a student right now, and she is doing phenomenal on this. She can do it. She can guess them. But I don't know as if my brain would work that fast. But she can do it. And it's awesome. It's great. Because she can factor both the front and the back without having to multiply them together, and then pick the factors and know where they go. So if I can somehow eke that out of her, then I'm going to see if she'll make a video, or perhaps I can if I learn her technique. But it's phenomenal, and she can whiz through these. Oh, it's so great. That's understanding. There's a fundamental understanding I don't have there. Okay. So now, if we go ahead and multiply together the first and the last, the lead coefficient and the constant coefficient, then we're going to get a big number. Usually these numbers are freaking huge, and or it can be. And then we have to factor that down into two factors that will add or subtract based on our second sign there to get our central term. When we do that, we don't just write it out. Okay, we actually split it. So we had acx squared plus, and then we had ad plus bcx plus bd. And suppose we went ahead and multiplied ac and bd together to get abcd, and we factored it to ad and bc. Now we had to add them together. What we're going to do in this part is we're actually going to break them up. We're going to write acx squared plus, and we're going to write adx plus bcx plus bd. When we do that, then we're going to gather up by grouping, put a plus sign in here, and now we're going to factor out. We can factor out an a and an x. That'll leave us with cx plus d. Plus, now here we can factor out a b. That'll leave us with cx plus d. That means that we have ax plus b times cx plus d, which is what we started with. All right, so now we're going to split the middle term according to the factors that we've chosen. And we have to write them in that way. This is something that we kind of skipped over in the first set of videos. Let's take our example here. We've got 2x squared minus 7x plus 8. Plus 7 minus 8. Minus 8. There we go. Okay, so now I can make some guesses. My factors are going to have different signs. The larger factor is going to be positive, but the larger is a weird term in here because larger is going to refer to whichever combination. It's dependent on the combination. The combination will actually be bigger, or the bigger combination will be positive. So the way to start this is I multiply the first and last terms. Okay, and that's going to give me 16. I factor 16 down. 2 and 8. 4 and 4. I screwed that up again. Yeah, I think I screwed that up again.